Hello everyone. In this video we continue with more plotting functions in R, and I have already written some code here, and I will go over this to save some time. So first of all, the library that we want to use today is the ggplot2 library. And if you didn't install this library before, you can just use the install.packages and type this name of the library, and then you can start to use it. So if you run this, basically you can use these library functions, and well, you don't need this actually. You can just comment out that part, and then I have entered some arbitrary vectors with some decimal numbers here. So we can start to create a very basic plot using these two vectors. So my two vectors here with 5 elements, as you can see, 5 numbers, arbitrary values written in these vectors. And in order to create a simple plot in this ggplot library, we use the qplot function, and we can just type what is the x values and what are the y values, just like what we do in the regular plot function, the standard plot function in R. So it is very similar. I mean, you can see visually it is a little bit different, but basically the syntax is just the same so far. And these points are plotted with the x and y coordinates given from these two vectors, as expected. And then just again, similar to what we used in the regular plot function, we can add some parameters such as a title, X label, or Y label. You can add these and you can try and see what's the difference. You see some title here, we have Y label and X label here. Okay, so the most important difference now, so far it looks the same, right? The standard plot function versus qplot, they seem to be just almost identical, but the most important difference is when you start to consider the fact that this qplot is creating an object. Okay, so if we try to assign our plot function, I mean this line of code, in this line of code, when we assign this to a variable, let's say buzz or any other variable, this will not create anything. I mean, it's not creating an object, so it is null, empty. But for the qplot, as you see, this is an object. Okay, it has classes, and you can use the $sign to access the elements of that. Okay, so that's the most important difference in terms of comparing the standard plot function versus this qplot function. Okay, so once we understand this difference, now we can see more details about the qplot. In this line, basically in the qplot function, we have these geometric modifications. These are so-called geoms. Geom, I mean G-E-O-M. It is the geometric modifications we can do to our plot. And there are various utility functions here that we can enhance our plot. And again, an important difference, since this guy is an object, I am able to use this addition and add more geometric modifications to our plot. So this is an important feature of the qplot function, okay? Because this is an object, and we are able to modify our object using this plus operator here. And you can see this modification, geom, is to add points. And this guy is to add lines. It's going to add the line to connect our points. And you might notice here we first create, we don't display our points first, but we create an empty plot without our points or lines. Then we can add these step by step. And you can run that to see the result here. So we can see the lines and points are added to our plot. If you run this only, then you will not have that. It will be the empty, okay? It will be empty plot. And again, you can input more parameters. You can enhance your plot visually, change the point size or the shape choices. There are many shapes you can choose from. You can experiment with these, and you have different color choices. Of course, you can change it to blue, and also for the line, we can let's say set the red color and line type equals to 2. So we can change these and see the new plot. Okay, line type is 2, so we have this dashed line. We have changed the color and the color of the line, etc. Okay, so you can use this Gplot like this for your basic plotting purposes. And here we have another example. And as you see, once we assign, our qplot into a variable, this is an object now. It's an object. So we can run this, let's say. And you can also check the class, for example, my qplot here. And you can see that the information is given as a ggplot here. So it is an object, okay? And we can later on, in other parts of our code, we can modify this object as we progress. We can update it dynamically. For example, here we can add some geoms to add some points, like size equals to 3. We can change the shape again or the color. So let's do this one. And then we run the next point. As you see in the line here, if we run this, we don't plot this. We don't give any plots, okay? But once I run the second line, the plot is created like this. And we can continue to modify our plot if we run one more line. So let me run all this together. You can see we continue to modify our plot with these different shape type of our points. Okay, we change the type of this point. So we can split a data set also into subcategories, and here is an example for that. We can use the factor object. So for this purpose, first, let's say I have the x coordinates and y coordinates. So this is just arbitrary. I choose 1 to 20, and then these are the coordinates of our points, the y values. These numbers are arbitrary, no special meaning. You can change them as you wish. So once you create your vectors, let's say you want to plot these points, and let's say you want to separate them into regions, okay, some subsets. So we can do that. So first we will create a variable here as p-type, and first I'm going to use this rep, and I will just create an empty, vector. So if you try this, let's say this function, in a simple, let's say 3x1, you want to create 3 values here with NAs, and then you can fill these with other strings, so we can create categories. Okay, so first I want to split my coordinate system with respect to the y values. For y values greater than or equal to 5, I will call these as too big, let's say. For y values less than or equal to -5, I will denote them as too small. Again, I continue to split my domain. Let's say x greater than or equal to 5 and less than or equal to 15, and y values between greater than 5 and less than 5. So let's say these are the sweet values, and then we continue to separate our domain x less than 5 or x greater than 15 and y greater than -5 and less than 5. So you can see we use the logical operators here, and we can use or. So you can use these logical operators to define different regions of your points, right? You can change these. It's not important, but the important thing is to demonstrate that we can select some subsets of our data using the logical operators here. And then once I do that, I can modify my empty vector that I create here, p-type, this variable. I can modify and fill in different parts. Okay, and here we create this with the size same as 20. So the length of this x is 20. So it's going to create a vector length 20, and then we will start to fill it with these strings, and then finally we will create this. We will use the factor function to convert this to a category type variable, and then we can just display. Okay. So for example, if you try to run these step by step, you can see, let's say, what's the p-type. So you see this is a vector with 20 observations, but all the entries are NA at the beginning, and then we start to fill part by part. Okay. And then we can just continue to run this one more line. And you can continue to verify how does these values change. And I will just run these lines, and then basically we can see now we have defined these. Originally here in the previous step, these were just, we are entering strings, but now these are categories. Okay, these are categories now, and then we can now plot this. We can plot our x and y coordinates, and we can assign the colors from this variable and the shapes also from this variable. So you can try this, and the plot will look like this. So we have separated these categories, and this qplot basically assigns different colors for these different category of variables. So it is nice because we can easily see these different regions or subsets that we want to create. We can assign these different colors. So visually it is more readable for the audience and easily understandable.